So games have gotten easier, and this is not going to be a yellow paint debate or anything like that, and it's not going to be a, oh, we should go back to the classics. It's just something I've noticed a lot recently with my journey into playing a lot more retro games. I've been taking a little bit of a break from playing what I usually do. Right before bed, I'll play a little Pokemon on my 3DS, or even on stream recently, I've been playing a lot of the older Resident Evils. Honestly, going back and playing these, I noticed that a lot has actually changed that we don't usually think about unless you go back and experience it all over again. I actually wanted to try the Final Fantasies for the first time, so I started playing the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters. This is the really old ones, not the new ones that are all hot and sexy characters, but the little tiny pixel ones. And I know, pixel warning, okay? This is old stuff. But these games are really not linear at all. It kind of gives you this big open world, and the only linearity to it is if you can go on sea by ship, or if you can fly or not, if you have any of that unlocked. But it really barely tells you where to go at all. When you're going through the towns, you see all these NPCs, and you'll kind of see maybe where to go because it's a big castle or something, but for the most part, it's really just bare bones. And it wasn't long before I had to unearth the ancient text known as GameFAQs forums. I don't even know if a lot of people know what that is anymore, but it's essentially this old forum where you go and ask a question like, how do I unlock this sword for this quest? And then somebody will get on there that's probably in their 40s and give you a nice answer. But I saw a message on there that was pretty interesting where someone was complaining about how they just didn't know what to do. And a Final Fantasy veteran explained that what you really have to do is talk to the NPCs and they'll give you hints on where to go next. And then it kind of clicked for me. I haven't been talking to any of these motherfuckers. I've just been straight shot going through the towns, going to wherever I need to go next, and if you miss a key piece of dialogue, then all of a sudden, you just have no idea where to go. I think the dancer in one of the towns gives you a lot of sense of where to go next, but it's not specific. It's not like you talk to an NPC and they're like, you need to go to this place that I specifically am pinging on your map. It's more of, man, the cave up north is really dangerous. It seems like we shouldn't go there. Which obviously means you should go there. This is the start of when I had this realization of, wow, usually games I play now, it's just pinged on my map and I know exactly where to go. And I was getting this sense of exploration again that I think is kind of lost nowadays. It's a pretty big stark difference from the Final Fantasy of back then and then the Final Fantasy now. So you have your choice of, do I want to talk to 30,000 NPCs or do I want to climb these stones that are painted yellow? But on my journey of experiencing all this was actually playing Pokemon. So I have been playing a lot of Legends ZA, which is the newest installment to the Pokemon franchise. There's a lot of interesting opinions about this game, but my opinion is that it's actually not as bad as people say. It's not horrible, but it's also not great. You can go watch my fence-sitting review on it if you want. But just to recapture some of my childhood, I actually got out my 3DS and started playing Pokemon ORS. Specifically Alpha Sapphire, right before bed, and it's very nostalgic. But this game made me realize, oh my god, everything is different. There are so many little things that have been ease of use changed in Pokemon to where I don't actually think it's a bad thing, but it definitely makes for a different kind of game. Just as an example, the Pokemon Center and Pokemart typically, historically, are little buildings you go into to buy whatever you need or heal your team. Nowadays, it's actually kind of been conglomerated in Sword and Shield. And then in Scarlet and Violet, it was just kind of this little like shop thing you ran by on the field. And then now in ZA, there isn't even a Pokemart anymore. That guy's been fired. It's just Nurse Joy now, and you can buy stuff from her. Inside of the Pokemon Center, there's usually the PC, which lets you access all of your Pokemon in storage since you can only have 6 on your team at a time. And I actually do really enjoy this feature. I like sorting the boxes. I think it's fun. Now you can just press a button and find your Pokemon and sort them in your storage container yourself. You can do it from your Rotom phone. You don't even need any of this old PC garbage, you know? Bill, you've been replaced with AI. I actually love this feature, and when I played ORAS, I missed it dearly. Because there were a lot of times where I was like, I really want to change my Pokemon, but I don't want to go all the way back to a Pokemon Center. It's not like a challenge to me. There's a difference between challenge and waste of time. And while I do like the PC as an option and it's very nostalgic to me, it felt a little like a waste of time. And then of course there's the TM and HMs, which are very different now. These are basically moves you can teach your Pokemon. HMs are typically got from gym leaders and it would let you access different parts of the map. TMs are just moves that you could teach your Pokemon, usually only once. They've kind of went back on this now, and HMs kind of just got totally removed because your Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet would eat a sandwich and then learn how to fly instead of having to learn the move fly. And then in ZA, they actually did something pretty interesting where if you want to break a rock, you have to use a physical move. If you want to remove like sludge, you can squirt it with water. If you want to remove branches, you burn them. And it doesn't really block off areas that are required to improve in the story like in previous games. And you can just swap the moves on the fly very easily. You don't have to worry about losing TMs or HMs. All of these things are very memorable to me, but also, and excluding my nostalgia of walking into a Pokemart, it was a little annoying. Now, I'm going to be an old man here and say that I actually really like Pokemon Center and the Pokemart being 2 different buildings you walk into. I don't think Nurse Joy should have taken the job of whatever that guy's name is. I think the fact that most people had an HM slave that just knew all the HMs on their team kind of proved that this mechanic is pretty annoying and I'd rather just not have to deal with it. Now, my final nail in the coffin was playing Resident Evil 1 for the first time, the remaster. We actually streamed it. I have my full stream. You can go watch it if you want. But this is your classic survival horror. Now, previously, I've only played 7 and 8, so I really don't have any experience with this franchise. And immediately, I learned something horrifying. Nope, it's not the monster that chases you the entire time. It is the need for ink ribbons. I can't even explain how difficult this made the game. In Resident Evil 1, there are safe rooms so you can escape all these horrifying monsters chasing you, and then there's a typewriter. And you can type on the typewriter and that's how you save your game. And you can only do it in the safe rooms. But in the Resident Evil 1 remaster and probably most of the OGs, you can only use the ink writer to save if you have found an item called an ink ribbon. And if you do not have this item, you cannot save. Now, me being new to the franchise, I immediately used all of the ink ribbons. I remember specifically at one point in my playthrough, I saved once I got into the save room, and then I reorganized my inventory, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to reorganize my inventory again. And then I immediately saved again. And at some point, I ran out of ink ribbons. And if you run out, good luck. I progressed, I think, maybe like, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes, and then I died, and I had to do that 3 times until I finally got past it. Because not only if you don't have an ink ribbon, if you start running low on ammo or heals, it really kicks up the survival horror difficulty of the game a lot. And I know a lot of people argue that these are important things for difficulty, and I agree to an extent. It definitely changed the way that I played the game once I realized how important these items were. And I think having a save as a resource is really unique. But oh my god, having to redo puzzles over and over, I think I could learn to speedrun that damn game. And I saw recently that actually in RE9, if you put the game on hard mode, there is the return of ink ribbons, which weirdly enough, I really like that change. I think if you want to have something hard for difficulty-wise, putting it in a different mode is totally fine. Now, I have different videos of me arguing a lot about the difficulty in games. I feel like the taste in gaming overall has just kind of changed. People are way less patient and wanting even more dopamine, myself included. That's why, to wrap it all the way back around to Final Fantasy, in the Pixel Remaster, there are options to just turn on double XP and double money for winning. And then you can also turn off random encounters because they're annoying. And while I know it wasn't the intended experience, I did do it and I still had fun. There was a part where it backfired a little bit though, because if you turn off the random encounters, you're just not really getting a lot of XP. And then if you're not fighting a lot, you're going to get DPS checked at a boss and it's going to totally destroy you. Which did happen to me, so I had to go back and farm a little bit. Now, it's not every genre, but I think at least in the JRPGs and probably survival horror games, they've just gotten a little easier difficulty-wise and more or less smoothed out your experience playing them. I love things that encourage me to explore, and I like having unique little areas to go to, but having those as options and not a forced waste of time to me is pretty important. Unless it's specifically for things like difficulty, then I get it in that case. I think it is important to think about the intended experience from the game devs, but also when you buy a game, it's your experience and you can play it however you want. It just feels like certain genres of games to me, at least the ones that I've been experiencing lately, have definitely been getting easier over the years, and the only way for me to truly realize that was going back and playing older ones. You either like it or hate it. To me, it depends on the series. For an example, I'm more of a fan of linear games, so I prefer things that tell me what to do. Let me know what you think though. Are games getting easier, and do you like them more or less now? And as always, thank you to the YouTube members and our Calamari tier member, DJ Foxbox. If you want to see me talk about even more game difficulty stuff, then I highly recommend you check out my review for Silksong, which you can click right here.